Saturday. I'm excited to be here and starting all this back again. Hello, everyone. Hi, people showing up. I'm a little bit late because I'm just having too much fun. Today I'm listening to Lady Gaga. But anyway, so today I'm just focused on one topic because I've been getting some messages in the Facebook group and there's quite a few messages going on. So I'm going to focus on leaky gut and ADHD today. Usually I answer a bunch of questions, but I'm going to talk about that one specific topics today. So, oh, before I get started, so okay, I hope this thing is working. Okay, before I get started, um, August 1st is the first day of this thing that if you've been following me on the social media, you will have seen that I've been posting um, um, announcement on this thing called the Best School Year Ever giveaway. So it's a collaboration between me and several other experts in this area of helping kids and children and students, specifically teenagers. So we put together this giveaway where we're giving away a lot of like amazing free gifts for you to download. So check it out. You should be able to find it in the Facebook. Should be you should be able to find it in my Facebook group, Facebook post, a Facebook page, and also on Instagram here. So anyway, um, I I didn't take a screenshot of the questions that people asked, but I'll maybe link it back. So basically, there was some traffic in the Facebook group, people asking about what kind of probiotics to use for, I think, candida overgrowth. And I haven't talked about this topic for a while, like about leaky gut and ADHD. So this is perfect because I talk a lot about supplements and talk a lot about the food to avoid and things like that because that's all the questions I get a lot. But like this past week, and with the change in Facebook, I'm so sorry if I missed the question because I've been trying to get back to answer, but I think the Facebook got changed a little bit. I have a hard time finding my group. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to answer it here. So, with leaky gut, so that's something that not a lot of people think of how how the gut and ADHD is related. A lot of times, automatically, when we're thinking of ADHD, we're thinking of the very obvious symptoms like the lack of focus, hyperactivity, impulsivity. So all of those automatically we think is all in the brain, right? So, and pharmaceutical company also try to persuade us that, oh yeah, it's a brain chemical imbalance, or you're not making enough brain chemicals. So take this medication; it's going to help to bring those chemicals back to normal. But there's some scientists out there like this is like research over the last at least 10, 20 years, and like again, a lot of the things that I'm talking about today is 10 years ago nobody talks about it. It was so brand new. Even like how my book Eat to focus on like how eating can help with ADHD. All of this like 10 years ago, people think it's bullshit. Like how could you change ADHD, or how could you improve ADHD with changing the way that you eat? It's a brain chemical problem. It's like your brain's not making enough brain chemicals. But my challenge question for you is when your brain is not making enough chemicals, why? But no one ever answered this question. Even pharmaceutical companies not answering the question, why is your brain not making enough brain chemicals? All they say is, oh yeah, it's genetics. It's genetics that you don't make enough brain chemicals. It's genetics that's how it is. You're going to have this disease for the rest of your life. And if you read anything, according to the pharmaceutical company who's going to sell you drugs, according to them, every disease that you have is incurable. Everything that you have can only be resolved with a medication that they create. And you're going to take this medication for the rest of your life. That's what the pharmaceutical company will tell you. And if if they can bank on this thing like flu or cold, they will have created a medication for you to take for the rest of your life either. But we're smarter than that. We know flu and cold kind of happens and then it kind of goes away on its own without any intervention, any antibiotics at all. But let me go back to ADHD and the leaky gut. Okay, so the common perception is that ADHD is all up here, all in our brain, which is partially true. The second part of it is I call the ADHD gut, and it's all in my book. If you have read my book, thank you so much for reading it. Inside my book, I have a whole section that talks about the ADHD gut. So basically, how the gut and how the gut interfere with the brain and causes ADHD symptoms. So what most people don't realize, and I need to look a little bit. So right here, um, yeah. So if you have the older version of the book, which I still have, the brand new one is coming. It's in the mail. Even I don't have my first copy yet, so but I know it's in the mail because I get a notice from Amazon. And sorry, I digressed. Let's go back. Okay, so the gut, and again, these are a lot, probably a lot of things I'm going to talk about today is things that most people are not aware of. No one talks about. Your doctors don't talk about it. Your dietitian don't talk about it. Is these are not conventional information that you'll hear every day, but I know it works because I have a whole Facebook group of 14,000 people proving that changing diet helps with the ADHD symptoms. So I'm confident about that. Okay, so the way that the gut is that we often think that the digestive system is just like a giant tube, and some people basically treat the stomach kind of like a garbage disposal. Everything goes in, comes out as poop. Food goes in, poops comes out. But that's not the case. A lot of things happen. Your body, something that we really, really have to appreciate is that our body is a very, very intelligent machine. The food that we eat doesn't just go in, get ground up, and come back out in another form. A lot of the food, actually, all of the food that we eat, if you look at all the food that we eat, they're basically um, what a couple four macronutrients and then and a lot of micronutrients. And the macronutrients are basically carbohydrate, protein, and fats, and water. Most people don't consider water as a macronutrients because it doesn't have calories. That's all because of the whole diet culture, counting calories, and all that bullshit. But water is the biggest macronutrients because 70% of our body is water. But I'm not going to talk about all that stuff, but I'm going to focus more on the macronutrients, more on those because when we eat processed food, a lot of the processed food that comes from a factory, it's true. They make a food that kind of fills you up, but the problem is a lot of these processed factory foods have all these nutrients, macronutrients, things like vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. All of those good stuff taken away. And the thing is, what people don't realize, again, because of the diet culture, we're so focused on the calories of the food, and we forgot that the nutrients, macronutrients, micronutrients, so that means all the fats, um, protein, carbohydrate, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, all the things that we get from the food, these are actually all chemical signal to our body to tell our body to do certain things. And that's what people don't realize is we all like even I made that mistakes too. I came from traditional or conventional nutrition school, and that's what they teach us. Everything is just all about calories and then vitamins and minerals. We talk about like how much we need, but the problem is that all the recommendation for vitamins and minerals needs of the day, that amount is just to prevent deficiency. It is not to fill any gaps or anything. That amount is just to prevent deficiency. That's all what it is. So we need to be smarter as a food consumer, health information consumer. We need to understand what all those information we're getting, but not just blindly focus on those. So the nutrients, specifically micronutrients like the vitamins and minerals, at low level, they're just food that keeps us functioning, keep us alive every day. But at a higher level, super crazy higher level, they become medication. And I have a post like many years ago that talks about vitamin C. Some of you who might be familiar with vitamin infusion, where they infuse people with super high levels of vitamin C. Okay, this is the funny thing. Um, in nutrition school, and also as a brand new dietitian, like many years early in my career, I used to tell patients, don't waste money on these vitamins. You're just nourishing the toilet. And we're often, uh, we're actually brainwashed to tell our patients that don't waste your money on taking so much vitamin C. You only need like 60 milligrams a day. Whatever that you take, because it's a water soluble vitamin, you just pee it into the toilet. So don't waste your money. And we even tell people that when you take high dose of vitamin C, it causes diarrhea. And back then when we're talking about high dose, we're talking about something like maybe 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams. But now I'm so much more educated and so grateful of all the information out there. And I realized that vitamin C, if you do some research out there, vitamin C at a super high levels. So the RDA, I don't remember what the RDA is. It might be 90 milligrams of vitamin C a day. That's the recommendation from the government to prevent vitamin C deficiency, which can cause scurvy. Yeah, scurvy is the condition, which never happens anymore because we have an abundance of vitamin C. So the the government recommendation is the bare minimum to prevent deficiency of vitamin C. But when you look at the discipline of medicine, which is called molecular, no, orthomolecular medicine, they're actually using vitamin C to treat cancer. It's amazing. Like people die of cancer every day, but we have the cancer treatment already. And I'm not advocating that that's one treatment, but there are many, and I've heard so many stories about people recovering from cancer going into remission. But in this specific discipline of medicine, they're using vitamin C up to 100,000 milligrams. Again, the recommendation from the government for vitamin C is about 90 milligrams a day to prevent vitamin C deficiency. But somewhere in this world, someone is actually treating cancer with over 100,000 milligrams of vitamin C infusion to cure cancer. So, what I'm trying to show here is that nutrients and food have the potential to heal the body in a different way, but we just need to understand how it works. So going back to what I'm trying to talk about here today, I'm going to talking about or focusing on leaky gut and ADHD. And the reason why I'm bringing all these nutrients up is because we need the intestine to be working. So we often talk about leaky gut, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people over here have people talk about leaky gut that, leaky gut that. Basically, what leaky gut is just basically what it describes is your intestine is leaky. So first of all, I want to go back to a little bit basic function about the digestive system. So the digestive tract from the mouth to the butthole. So that's all our digestive tract, and that is actually besides the skin, is our other um, direct contact with the outside world. So that means that everything that we eat, that we put in our mouth, put into our body, have the potential to harm our body. But again, the human body is super intelligent. Your body is not going to let you hurt anything. So all the cells along or the lining along the digestive system is highly designed to protect our body against infection. Excuse me. So, yeah, so from the time we start eating, actually eating the whole process didn't even start with eating. The whole process start with you thinking about food. Start with you feeling hungry. You think about food, and then when that thought start to come, your body actually start preparing your digestive system for having food coming in. So actually, just the thought of thinking about food, and I'm pretty sure most of you have that experience where you're watching TV, suddenly some food commercial show up, you're like, oh wow, that looks really good. I'm, I really want a hamburger now, right? So it's kind of like that. So when you see food, when you hear about food, when you talk about food, your body start preparing you for food coming in for digestion. So digestion actually start when the thought of food comes. And then when you preparing food, you're smelling the food, knowing that food is gonna come, then your body's continue to get you prepared. Then the next thing is when you start eating food. When the food is in your mouth, people often just think saliva is just spit, it's just this gross liquid. But you know what? Saliva actually have digestive enzymes in it, and the main one that is in the saliva is actually amylase, which is an enzymes um, to break down carbohydrate. Then in your stomach, that's not the most important part. The most important part is what's happening in your stomach. So the stomach, and I've seen that in a lot of people. Most people kind of think our stomach kind of like a garbage disposal, anything goes, right? But it is not. The stomach is acidic. Most of us, when we've heard of the stomach acid, and a lot of people think that it's like the bad thing, so they take all this medication and suppress it. So stomach acid is very, very important. It does two very important jobs for us. Oh, this side can't see. Two. So number one job, remember all the food that we eat goes through the intestine. So our intestine is like the first line of defense against anything coming from the outside. So number one job of stomach acid, which has a pH of 2, it can like melt stuff. It's dangerous. But but it's not hurting us because our body is smart. Okay, so number one job of stomach acid is actually to kill all the potential bacteria that comes into our body. That's the reason why you need to wash all the things very well before you start cooking and wash your hands before you eat, before you cook. Because even though we're trying to be very clean, very meticulous, there's still some bacteria going ended up in our system. And that's especially more dangerous and more so if you're someone who have a compromised immune system or someone who tends to get sick easily. So that's number one job of your stomach acid is to kill the bacteria that could potentially enter into our body. Number two, very, very important function is that the stomach acid, because it is so acidic, it can kill bacteria, it can kill a lot of stuff. The second very important job it does is to help break down protein. So the protein, the way to look at protein is that if you have kids who play Lego or if you used to play Lego when you're little, so all these Lego blocks, basically you use all these tiny little blocks to build a house, build a car, build airplane and all those, right? So that's kind of how protein is. It's a protein structure or a giant glob of stuff that is made out of tiny little blocks we call amino acids, similar to the Lego blocks. What the protein what the stomach acid does in the stomach is that when the protein glob hits the protein or hits the stomach acid with all that acidity, the protein changes shape. The protein molecules changes shapes and open up, exposing the different amino acid links for the for further digestion, which doesn't happen until it gets to the small intestine. So that's the second job of the um, stomach acid is to spread out the protein chunk to smaller chunk, then we can absorb it. And that's still not the most important part, but I'll talk about how we can mess up there. Then after the stomach acid, as the food in the stomach get all mixed up with the stomach acid, so it becomes super acidic, but the proteins are smaller now. Then next up, it goes into our small intestine. And in the small intestine, is really where all the digestion happen. And this is where all a lot of things could potentially go wrong, right? So when remember now, so all the food coming from the stomach is super acidic because of the stomach acid, and you're like, then why is it good? So all this acidic stuff is being dumped into a small intestine, but the intestine is not as protected as the stomach. So then your body produces something called bile that comes from your gallbladder, but actually it comes from your liver. The bile is basically baking soda in a in our human form. So the bile or the body's form of baking soda hits the stomach acid. So you probably done science experiment in school where you mix some kind of vinegar with baking soda, and you know what happened? It goes. That's the exciting part. It forms this foamy thing, kind of explosive. Okay. Um, Yeah, so when the acidic stomach content hits the small intestine, then your gallbladder do the squeeze, and then the bile comes out, and then it all make that big sizzle, but you don't really feel it. You don't really feel any of that. It's probably a slight sizzle, but basically that's what happened. The bile neutralized the stomach acid, so that way now all that stomach content is neutralized. It's not acidic, so it's not going to harm the intestine because the intestine is not the same as the stomach, where the stomach can handle all that acidic content. And and it's because all of this is neutralized now, and all this happening, then your pancreas is going to make the actual digestive enzymes, things like amylase, protease, and lipase. So those are the three main ones. But I'm just generalizing everything because even though you have protease, lipase, amylase to break down the protein, fats, and carbohydrate, all of those biochemicals molecules, all the food molecules, the amino acid molecules, carbohydrate molecules, every one of them have very specific bond that needs very specific enzymes, which will be more like biochemical, okay, biochemistry. I took 400 level biochemistry. This is where I learned all that stuff. But the even higher level, you'll learn very specific enzymes to break those things down. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that the human intestine is not a garbage disposal or a Vitamix that anything goes in, any get things get blended up and absorbed. Only specific things get absorbed. Only food that your body can digest, that your body have the enzymes to break it down into amino acid, into glucose, break it down into fatty acid. Those are the nutrients, and then of course the vitamins, minerals. Those are the only things that get absorbed through the intestine into the body. So if you're eating food that is man-made by a food manufacturer that your body doesn't recognize because your body doesn't have that specific digestive enzymes to break it down and turn it into amino acid, glucose, or fatty acid, that food does not enter your body and is deemed useless and deemed toxic and useless. And this is where potential of leaky gut can happen is when we're constantly eating the wrong kind of food that our body cannot break down. And you know who else live in our intestine is all these bacteria. So when you have all this toxic poisonous food coming in that the body cannot use, your body somehow have to find ways to get rid of it. But before your body can actually find ways to get rid of it, some of this bacteria are eating all that left over because you're not absorbing everything. So you're feeding the bad bacteria. So then when the bad bacteria is eating the junk food or the garbage, it's kind of like when you leave trash on the road or in your house, depending on where you live, you start attracting roaches and rodents and all these crazy animals that leave eat your garbage. That's kind of how it is when you eat the wrong kind of food. When you eat the wrong kind of food, you leave all this trash and garbage in your intestine that attracts the wrong bacteria, the yeast, and then all these other disgusting stuff that could grow in your body. And when these things start eating and filling up and thriving on the leftover food that you have there, they start overgrow, and that's how in some places they ended up with rodent problems, with roaches problems, and things like that. And that actually happened to us in our building. But but yeah, that's how you have a yeast overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth, and then leaky gut. So let me go back a little bit and talk about leaky gut. So leaky gut, exactly what it is. The gut is leaky. And when we think of how amazing our intestine and everything is, we're still vulnerable because we're human beings. Our intestine only have one layer of cell, one layer, just one tiny layer of all these cells all tucked together, kind of like a puzzle piece. But the problem is when this bacteria or like roaches or rodents or raccoons or all these like pests is eating all this like yucky junk that we have in our body, they produce waste. So the waste product from these like bad things is going to cause the intestine to kind of like not behave healthily, and plus it's not getting the nutrients it needs, so you start to kind of get weak, so the joint between the cells are not tight anymore. Like um, the scientific term is really called tight junctions. So the junctions, the connection between the cells, all the intestinal cells, is actually called tight junction, and is supposed to be tight, like nothing gets through. But when the intestine is not healthy, the environment is not healthy, the the composition is not healthy, this junction become loose. So all this bacteria can go through. Bacteria can now go through, partially broken food can go through, and that's how people ended up with like different kind of infection, like C. diff infection, and what's the other thing that's common? Oh, and food allergy, food sensitivity. All of that comes from like all this loose junction, because now they can go through all this junction. So the goal of like nutritional therapy or functional nutrition therapy is really to close all these gaps and keep them closed again to block out all the yucky stuff out. So yeah, that's the kind of the gist of the leaky gut. So that means that to correct the leaky gut, to make your gut healthy again, we need to look at the food that we're putting in. Are we putting in the right kind of food that provides the body and feeds the gut as well? And oh, one more thing that is very important is that the gut, even though it's an organ for absorbing food, the second very important, actually not the second, it's probably just as important as the digestive function, is that the gut has like 100 billion. Let me just double check my book. Yes, 100 million nerve cells. There are 100 million nerve cells in your intestine. That's why when someone says something mean to you, you get yelled at. You're in a stressful situation. You feel your gut, your belly area all tightens up. Or sometimes when you have that gut feeling, you walk into a room or you walk into some place and you suddenly have that gut feeling that something is wrong, something is not right. That's where your gut is. So the way to think of how the gut and the ADHD is all connected, or the brain is connected, is imagine a giant tree. In Hawaii, we have a lot of banyan tree around, which they're super big and huge, and roots grows everywhere. So your intestine is kind of a metaphor, or the tree root will be a metaphor for your intestine. So your intestine's job is to absorb all the nutrients from the food that we eat. Kind of like the root of the tree is absorbing nutrients from the ground to feed the tree, to feed the tree top. And then your tree top, the top part where all the leaves are, that will be kind of the brain. And there is connection, there are actual connections between the gut and the brain, like nerve connection. So um, the job of the intestine really not simply to absorb nutrients, but it also produces a lot of brain chemicals. So some of the food that we eat, we absorb most of the food through the intestine into the body, but some of the food actually feeds the bacteria in the guts. And the bacteria that lives, the good bacteria now, we're only talking about good bacteria. The good bacteria that is living in our intestine, when they eat the good food that we eat, they actually create something called, they create chemicals. They're actually brain chemicals. So we often focus on the brain as the main source or the main place where brain chemicals are created. The intestine is the other source of brain chemicals. Your brain, your brain and your intestine actually making the same kind of chemicals. The dopamine, the norepinephrine, the GABA, and all of those. Your your gut is making all those same chemicals as your brain. So that's something very, very important to understand and to realize that, hey, if I want this part of my body works well, if I want to feel good emotionally and mentally and have energy, maybe rather than focusing on what to do to boost the brain chemical up here, we might be, we should also focus, like I said, also focus, not switch. We're going to focus on increasing brain chemicals here, but we're also going to focus on how to increase the brain chemicals coming from the intestine, and that will be from the food that we eat and correcting the leaky gut. So like now, knowing what can cause the leaky gut, so basically the wrong kind of food that we eat that can turn toxic, and then of course a lot of the chemicals that comes in with processed food. And just knowing that processed food, I mentioned earlier that most of the nutrients are stripped off of the processed food. That means that basically when you eat something that is made from a factory, processed to a non-food version, you're basically just getting calories and the macronutrients. You're not really getting much of the micronutrients like vitamins or minerals. But that's not the worst. You know what's worse with processed food? Is all the garbage that they put into your food. Because after they process all that food, take out all the good stuff from the food, they want to make sure that the food can stay on the shelf forever, right? Like, this is my thing. If your food can be, you can keep your food out for longer than the survival of your pet goldfish, it's probably not good for you. Because if if natural bacteria cannot even break down the food that you leave out for days and weeks and years, your intestine is not going to digest it. Like, your intestine is amazing, but you're not that amazing that you can actually break down plastic. Okay, so the danger thing that a lot of food company adds all these additives to the food thing, all they're saying is, oh yeah, is to keep the food fresh, keep the food looking good, but ultimately all of those is to make the food last forever. So then they have, instead of having only a week time frame to sell the food, now they have 2 years to sell that food product. That's really what all those chemicals are about. Those chemicals are not put in for the benefit of you. It might help you with your wallet. When you buy a can of meat, it lasts, like, stay on your shelf for 2 years. But what good is it that you can save like couple $4 or $5 when you're paying like $20,000 to see a doctor or specialist for something really like life threatening? It just doesn't make sense, right? And then food manufacturer also say, oh yeah, these are just inert chemicals. So in chemistry, when we say inert, it means that it doesn't cause any reaction. It's just like glass. We know glass does not cause any reaction. That's why we love using glass to store anything. So inert glass is an inert kind of material. So they often say that, oh yeah, we just add these chemicals. It doesn't interact with the body, doesn't do any harm to the body. I call bullshit on that. Like, come on, like our whole body, every single cells in this body. Like, just look at yourself in the mirror. Your whole body are made up of living cells, and every living cells is a bag of biochemistry. Chemical reactions happening every single second. That's what keeping you alive. And you're going to tell me I'm going to put some chemicals into this body and it's not going to affect one bit. I don't believe that. Okay. So just be smarter out there. Um, Processed food is not meant for human consumption. I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit dramatic like that, but there's a reason for that. Why? With technology, we have better technology, better medicine, better everything nowadays. But the health of this country or even the world is not getting better. What changed? What's the difference? We need to start asking smarter questions instead of just blindly just listening to everything. We need to be asking smarter questions. Why are we eating better and still not healthier? And we're still a sick or, or actually sicker than people 20, 30, 40 years ago? That's the question we should be asking. And the answer is out there. It's not hidden treasures. It's not magical. It's because our living is different, our food choices is different. The human body has not changed for the last couple thousand years. We're still the same human being, um, except that we totally all look different than our grandma Lucy. But that's like millions of years of evolution. But at least for last couple hundred, last couple thousand years, our everything is still pretty much the same, except we're smarter too. This nowadays, but so yeah, that's why I want to put it out there that we are smarter today, and we need to ask smarter questions, and we need to to be smarter than this food company and drugs company. Ask more questions. We need to ask questions. That's one of the things that I really appreciate that growing up, I learned to ask questions because when you ask the right question, you find the right answer. And when you find the right answer, you find the right solution to your problems. And that's how life is. So, and that's the reason why I created this whole natural alternative ADHD treatment blog. It started out with me asking questions for myself, and I'm glad that I can help other people now with this. So I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate that I can help you here while helping myself. So okay, let's keep going. Um, yeah, so to solve this leaky gut and ADHD, so now we understand how the leaky gut is created, how it affects the brain and all those. So now with all that understanding, we just kind of do a reverse engineering and reverse off the things that we just talked about. So it basically start eating real food. I call that the real food plant-based diet. And I know the plant-based word kind of get thrown around everywhere now. And when I say plant-based, I'm not talking about vegan diet. I'm talking about a diet that is mostly vegan, still have meat in it. I I endorse more of the flexible, intuitive eating type because I avoid putting stigma on food except um, food that actually hurts you. And yeah, so a real food plant based diet basically your food should be the most natural state as possible, like whatever you can handle. I'm not saying that you have to absolutely get everything. You always need to give yourself 20%, 10, 20, 30% of room to wiggle around. Okay, this is not a rigid thing. Diet is only part of your life. It shouldn't dictate your life. You have other things that you need to enjoy. So all of the things I talk about, food to eat, food not to eat, is a suggestion. You adopt as much as you can to help you feel good about yourself. That's all it is. You don't need to be super strict with everything, okay? Food should be enjoyed. It shouldn't be something that you're obsessed about every day. It shouldn't take control of your life or everything. Okay, it's just part of you and it's just a tool for you. The way I often talk about food is in my other blog is your car. So if you have a car, you go to a gas station and you put gas in the car, and then you go take your car. So now your car is filled with gas, and it takes you to all the fun places that you're gonna go, right? So that's what food is. Food is the same thing as the gas you put in the car. Food gives you energy so you can do fun things and enjoy life. That's what food is for, okay? Don't let it control you. But for some of us, we just have a little bit more sensitive intestine that has to be a little bit picky with food, which is fine. It's just like cars too, right? Like some cars take the cheap gas and some cars have to take expensive gas. Some cars can use only diesel. So everyone is different, and we just have to accept that we're all different in our own unique way and accept ourselves just the way it is, and we'll be all happy. But um, but I'm here to support all of you. Have the Facebook group where you can hang out there with other like-minded people. So if you're on Instagram, hop over a Facebook group. Yeah. So so basically, to help correct the leaky gut, the number one thing is really fixing your diet, trying to focus on switching to a more whole food plant-based diet. And the plant-based part is where all the vegetables and all the plant food comes in. And the reason why you want to have a lot of plant food is because that's what the good bacteria and good your renters in your intestine, they love all of that fiber, of that nutrients in the plant food. So all your plant food gives you fiber. The fiber is something kind of like our body, the human body cannot digest fiber. Only termites can digest fiber. So we cannot digest fiber. But the intestine that lives in our intestine, they can break down the fiber a little bit and make some good stuff out of it. So that's number one. Number two is all the plant food like fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, and all those. Even though I actually that's part of the elimination diet, but I'm not talking about that. So all those plant food have vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that the human body needs. And all those chemicals, not chemicals, the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, they're actually key. So remember I mentioned a little bit about how our body is all like full of chemical reaction. Every single chemical reaction would not turn on if a vitamins or minerals or an antioxidant is missing. So that is the reason why you need to eat a lot of plant food to get all those vitamins, minerals, and antioxidant, because those are the key to turn on all these chemical reaction that builds up your metabolism and gives you energy. So that's what all those things are for. They're not just there for fun. Um, yeah, so a whole food plant-based diet that your body can recognize, can break down the food, can actually take the macro and the nutrients out of the food and put it into your body for good use. Second thing is, if you have a leaky gut and having a lot of symptoms like diarrhea, constipation, anger, emotional issues, skin rashes, food sensitivity, allergy, you probably have like some bacterial overgrowth or yeast overgrowth, then in that case, on top of eating a whole food plant-based diet, you also need to cut back on sugar. And the process, I talk about that, why is that the case? But sugar definitely, because yeast love sugar. How many of you make bread? Like if you have make bread at home, you know how you start making bread, right? You mix the yeast with sugar first because you want the sugar to feed the yeast, because when the yeast eats that sugar, it makes carbon dioxide, and that's what caused the dough to blow up. And that's what happening in your intestine. You know how some of you, like after you eat something like bread or pasta, and you notice your belly suddenly get really big like you're pregnant? That's what's happening in your intestine. You're basically making yeast bread in your belly. So yes, sugar definitely is something to avoid. If you can avoid sugar for as long as possible consecutively for at least 10 days, you'll see amazing results. But I know it's gonna be hard because one of the very one of the symptoms of a yeast yeast overgrowth is sugar cravings. Anytime someone come to me and say they have sugar cravings, there are several things happening. One is they have insulin resistance. Second is they could have a yeast or candida overgrowth because when your intestine is filled with all this sugar loving yeast, they're going to make you to crave for sugar. And then the other thing is insulin resistance, which I'm not going to talk about here. But that's what it is. So whole food plant-based diet and avoid sugar as much as possible. And then number three is to have um, what's that? A supplement. So we know that the cause of your leaky gut or the yeast overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth is you have too much of the bad guys. So now we need a very good probiotic to to um, to push all the bad bacteria out. So when you do the first two, eating a whole food plant-based diet, cutting out the sugar, so the purpose of those two is really to starve the bad bacteria and the bad yeast. So when they don't get the food, they're going to leave. It's just like the book Who Moved My Cheese, right? One of the mouse is like, oh, there's no cheese anymore. I'm gonna leave now. So that's what the bacteria and the yeast is gonna do when they don't get the food that they want. They're gonna either disappear or they die. Most likely they die because they cannot just walk out of your body. So they die. So that's one strategy. The third strategy, the probiotics. So while you're starving the yeast and the bacteria, you're going to put in the new good bacteria so that now you're repopulating your bacteria with the good bacteria. So it's like any time you bring a house pet, a new pet into your house, right? Think of probiotic as house pet. If you have a cat, you buy cat food and feed your cat cat food. If you have a dog, you buy dog food and feed your dog dog food. You don't switch that around, do you? So when you have the good bacteria, your good bacteria, again, they like the good plant-based food. So now the food that you're feeding or eating from the whole food plant-based diet not only is going to starve the bad bacteria, but it's also going to feed the good bacteria. So now your good bacteria is like you have the good bacteria in place, and they're like, oh wow, this place is so comfortable. It's nice and warm, and have my favorite food here. So I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna settle down here, have my family, and have children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. So that's how you keep your good bacteria in it. So that's like these three basically are the um, main solution or main strategies to correct all of that gut imbalance and repair the leaky gut. Because when your good bacteria is established in place, when you start eating the whole food plant-based diet, eating all the good stuff, the byproduct of the good bacteria eating that food is actually good brain chemicals for your brain, and it also makes um, energy for the small intestine. So your intestine will start slowly healing from that, from all of the things you're doing. And then I want to actually add two more things to that, um, or maybe three. We'll see how many comes out. Okay, then number four, when you have all of those things in place, number four things, very important too, is to control your stress response. Again, going back, you know how when you stress, you feel your intestine tighten up? Like lately, I've been seeing so many people with irritable bowel syndrome. Like if you just think of the name irritable bowel syndrome, irritable, what are you irritable about? You're irritable about the things happening to you, things that are happening in your life, things that you have to deal with every day. So if you can control your stress, and I know I'm not trying to say that just ignore the stress. Like I have stress too. I'm still working on that myself. I have stress every day. I have stress at work. I'm seeing like eight, nine patients a day. That's very stressful. I have to write my notes. So, but I have to learn to control my reaction to stress. Just knowing that you cannot control what stress come into your life, but you can control how you react to the stress. Like just know that what's the worst case scenario when this stress happens to you, right? So and And I'm not going to talk too much about this, but I'll talk about it in my other blog. But stress is something you cannot control, but you can control how you react to your stress. And when you take care of this body, you eat well, you sleep well, you have good energy level, the stress is a lot easier to handle. Just just an idea. So you know how when you're walking around with stress up to your eyebrows every day, when your kid touching mommy, 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 you just explode. Your kids even ask you for what it is or what's the problem is. Just the fact that your kid touching you, mommy, mommy, and you just explode, right? That's how your stress can affect you. But when you sleep well, when you sleep well, you eat well, you slept well, you wake up and like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is going to be a good day. And then you walk out of your room and your kid's running with a cup of milk and he spilled. And you're like, it's okay, honey. Accident happened. Let mommy clean it up for you. So when you can dial down your stress response, your life will be so much better. You can handle things so much better. But the thing is, we need to put it as a priority to take care of ourselves first. Because we often try, as mom, we often put all our needs behind everyone else, making sure everyone else needs taken care of. But we don't realize that when you take care of yourself first, you have more of you to give to your husband, to give to your kids, to give to your family. That's something we need to switch the focus on. You taking care of yourself is not you being selfish, it's you being selfless because the reason you take care of yourself is because you want to take better care of your family. That's the truth. Okay, so stress. Um, oh, then I'm just gonna put the rest of it kind of like together. So number five will be self care and self love, kind of similar to the last one. You need to take care of yourself. Make sure you sleep enough. Make sure you eat well enough. And I hear from moms and parents all the time they eat their kids leftover. Come on, like will you will you feed? You don't even feed your kids leftover. Why are you feeding yourself leftover? Like that's something that bugs me the most is when women, moms and parents do all of this thing to themselves in the word that, oh, I want my kids to have the best of everything. But then you making yourself suffer. You're not being a good role model for your child. You're teaching your child to grow up to be an adult to just do everything for people and forget about your own needs. It's okay to eat other people's leftover. It's okay that, oh yeah, I'll just make the food for my husband and my son. I'll just eat whatever they eat, even though I don't like their food. That's exactly a conversation I had yesterday with my patient. She suffers so much pain, so much so much health issues, and it's all because she cannot change her diet because her husband won't let her buy the food she wants. I was like, you need to tell your husband to show him that you're just as important in this relationship. The reason why he can make all this money, have a career, is because you were there to support him. You were there to take care of the family and you were there to take care of the kids. So that way he can feel safe and leave the family and go out and make the money and support this family. This is not a one way relationship. Any marriage, any family is a what you call it is a team effort, is a group effort. Don't feel that just because you're a stay-home mom, you don't make money, you don't contribute, and you're useless. That is not the case. You stay home, you take care of the kids, you make sure everyone is well fed and everyone is alive. That's an insane, crazy, hard job. And if your kids is alive every day, and if your kids feel happy every day, you've done a great job. And your husband or your spouse should be so happy that you're there in their life. Okay? So learn to ask for more. We need, I think that's something I love talking about is as women we need to learn that we matter just as much. It doesn't matter how much money we might make less than our husband, but we matters. We matters because he is successful because we're here in their life. You need to remember that. just ask them. Like, if you don't believe me, just ask them, what happened if I'm not in your life? Just that will scare the shit out of them. And they'll appreciate you. So, but anyway, I'm going to leave the talk today with that. And I want to empower everyone. Every one of you matters. Every one of you matters more than you think, okay? Remind yourself that you're great, you're wonderful, you're on this earth for a very, very, very good reason. Don't feel anything less than who you are, okay? And then, yeah, and we'll be back next week. And yeah, I didn't answer some of the question, but I'll answer it on a different ways. Okay. But anyway, I'm so grateful everyone that show up today or people watching the replay. So thank you very much, everyone. I love you all. Bye.